Hey everybody, welcome to Charlie's Garage. I was out here in the garage and I'm playing around with the Mustang, and over the past week or so, there's been some discussions that have made me want to put my point of view out there. You may agree with it, you may not, but I think it's important that people know where I stand on the issue. And that's technicians versus employers. You know, you got your auto techs, your diesel techs, then you got the employers that hire those technicians. And there is a real disconnect between the two groups right now. So, for example, young technicians that are going to a trade school, community college, what have you, are paying tuition to learn a trade, and they want to graduate, they want to work in that industry. And what's happening is that they're getting job offers that pay them, maybe if they're lucky, a few dollars more than they could get working at a McDonald's or a Burger King. So you could see the point of view of someone who takes an investment, learns a very complicated and skilled trade, and then finds out that they're going to be making that amount of money, being not so happy with that, right? And then you got the employer's perspective where they're trying to make money. They don't know what kind of investment they have when they hire a new tech, and they don't want to go overboard with the pay for someone who is not going to work out for them. So they want someone to basically get in there and prove themselves, to work through the system and get promoted and so on. And the disconnect between the two is where I'm stuck in the middle, right? As someone who works at a trade school and someone who's training these younger technicians, I want them to be successful, and I want them to be put in positions where the money they've invested and the time they've invested to learn their trade pays off. And I also see the technician or the employer's point of view in that they can't go and say, hey, you're 19, 20 years old, you just graduated from a trade school, here's $35 an hour, right? That that doesn't work either. But there has to be a middle ground, right? The city of Phoenix alone has, over the last year, had 13% inflation, and that is no joke. And that inflation is making everything more expensive. Rent is crazy. You're putting these young kids in a position where they learn a trade and they come to work for you and they can't even afford to pay rent, right? So that's not sustainable. And it really does get irritating when you constantly hear from every employer on the planet how you're in a really good spot right now being choosing this trade that you've chosen because there's this huge shortage, and we need techs, and then you go and here's $19 an hour. I mean, the two messages don't go well together. You can't tell a group of people how there's this huge shortage of technicians and everybody's scrambling and fighting over getting these guys in the door to come and work for them, but then not offer the kind of packages and benefits that would attract those people. But at the same time, I think the young students, the younger guys, need to recognize the fact that they aren't going to graduate from a trade school, go into a job at a dealership or a fleet, and automatically become rich and successful, own a home, three cars, a boat, and an airplane, right? It is not going to happen. But there does need to be some middle ground that the two groups come to. Otherwise, neither group is going to be successful. The young auto and diesel technicians are going to get frustrated with that, and they're going to go and they're going to find a different path that appreciates them and their talents a little bit better, whether that's going back to school and learning something like nursing or anything else, right? You're not going to keep people interested in the field if you don't support them in a way where they can support themselves, right? So that is part of it, right? Those employers are setting an unsustainable expectation of these low wages that are not coming up with the rest of America, inflation, pay scales, and everything else, right? I absolutely understand when they make the comparisons of how I can go to work somewhere just flipping burgers that requires very little skill or training and make almost as much as something that took me a year just to learn the basics on. It's not right, period, right? Um, but at the same time, you know, as the employers do need to come closer to the students' expectations with those pay scales, you really should expect that the students don't look at the immediate future and look at their long-term plan, right? I mean, they got to understand that there is, once they graduate from a school, there is still more training that needs to occur. They're not experts in the field just because they went to a 13, 14-month program that taught them the basics. They still need to get out there and turn wrenches and learn the skills, right? And they got to understand that, yeah, maybe that beginning pay isn't as much as that they would hope for, but it's preparing them and training them for opportunities that are going to give them the pay that they do deserve in the future, right? And then that leads to owning a home, being able to support a family, stuff like that. Where it gets really rough for people who are in the middle age group that already have maybe a family and are just due to circumstances or changing careers, and they're going into that entry level career and it's hurting them really bad. So I really honestly see both sides of the conundrum. I understand employers' point of view of wanting to test people out, not wanting to break the bank, bringing in new people. And a lot of employers are bumping up the pay scale a little bit. They are offering tool benefits, tuition reimbursement, and all kinds of other packages that help sweeten the deal. So don't get me wrong. There are employers out there that recognize the shortage, recognize the need to take steps to attract that talent, right? But there are those that also are lagging a little behind in that category. And for the students, yes, you are right to have better expectations from some of these employers, but the expectations are maybe a little bit too unrealistic and need to be pulled back a little bit. So my advice to both groups: temper your expectations, come together in the middle, and help the whole industry survive this shortage by supporting the people in the schools that are getting the training and helping them support themselves when they get out. Last thing I want to mention is the fact that, you know, the students that are in a trade school, and any trade school, not just the one I work at, but any trade school, they are going to see which employers are invested in them while they're in school. Invested in them. Not just show up at a career fair, give them a card, a pin, a hat, and say, hey, go to this website and apply with us. We'll give you a job. Here's the benefits package. And, that's great. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is to get the kids a job. But the students do see who is in the school while they're attending, right? Who is coming to school and doing demonstrations with new technologies? Who is coming to the school with training aid packages that can help them learn while they're here? Who is the one coming to the school and benefiting them during the learning process? If I was much younger than I am now, and I was going to school and getting close to graduation, and I was getting ready to sign the dotted line with a company to start my career, I guarantee you, if I had to choose between 2 or 3 companies that with very similar pay and benefits, I'm choosing the one whose name I've seen all around my school for the past year, on the walls, on the training aids, in the social media from the school, thanking them for donations. So employers need to think about that, right? Schools need support from employers. We need support from employers. And the students need your support, and we see that and we appreciate it, and it is going to help you with recruiting in the long run. So this was my rant. I know it's a little long-winded, but I just needed to get that off my chest because it's been bugging me. I've been dealing with it for a few weeks now, where I've had some really good employers come in and do presentations, and they're and then the students are leaving and they're grumbling, and I'm thinking, man, that was some good benefits and some good packages, and the starting pay is horrible. Well, yeah, it was, and it gets, being stuck in the middle between those two groups, where I love and appreciate both of them and what they do for the industry. I just want them to come together. So that was my 2 bits. So thank you for listening, and have a good rest of your weekend.